All right, welcome back again to Q&A Tuesday. My name is Dan, the Ratmaster Wallace. I'm here from BeAGameCharacter.com, and we are going to be making some awesome answers today. So let's see what we got going on. We're going to go ahead and bring up the questions from last week. And we got Facebook Live going down here. And we'll see if we get anybody live on there. So, to start off, question of the week for last week was, what do you think about the various Marvel comic book universe shakeups? Or, if you're not a Marvel person, you're not up on that, what do you think about this comic stuff revealed at Comic-Con? So, personally, I think all the Marvel shakeups are cool. I think they're awesome. I know a lot of people are complaining about, girl Iron Man, girl Thor, and all the other stuff that's happened, whatever. But, I think it's awesome. So, that's just me. I'm not going to get on a pedestal and preach about it, but I think it's pretty cool. So, moving in, we've got Addy Red, who first says, I like your internet page and YouTube channel a lot. I wanted to ask you if you can maybe do a Naruto character or a DBZ character, something like Rock Lee and maybe Krillin from DBZ. Looking forward to your answer. Now, first off, I already responded to this in comment, which is something I don't usually do for Q&A Tuesday stuff, but I need to respond to this, and I said, I love you. You know why? You're the first person to suggest someone from the anime, from those anime, who is not Naruto, Sasuke, Goku, or Vegeta. Like, so many people are like, yo, you should do Goku, do Vegeta, do Naruto, do Sasuke, do whatever. And I'm like, how am I going to do like a workout for gods? Because that is basically what they are. They are basically gods, okay? It's like people ask me to do Superman. Like, okay, yes, I could do a Goku workout, I could do a Superman workout, Naruto, Sasuke, whatever. But there's something about the lack of vulnerabilities in their characters that kind of makes them unappetizing to me, and I'm not psyched. I don't get psyched about it in the same way. And yes, we've had some real superpowered characters before, but on some level, they're still sort of human almost. They've got their character flaws. They've got whatever. So yeah, thank you first off, Addy Red, for suggesting Krillin or Rock Lee, which are both awesome characters, and everybody likes to bag on Krillin for some reason. Rock Lee doesn't really get that, but yeah. So thank you for that. Now Addy Red goes on and asks, Addy Red, I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Says, I believe you. That was in response to me saying everybody always wants Goku and Vegeta. I believe you. And also, Krillin was my biggest inspiration to start working out, because even though he was a fighter of the human race, he was able to kind of keep up with the other guys. Yeah, a lot of people don't really appreciate that. Like, Krillin's just a normal human. He's a short normal human. And he's like off on these, interplanetary journeys and whatever, and then they go to Namek, and then he comes back, and he's facing off against, like, literally, like, the nastiest creatures in the universe, and he gets his ass kicked all the time, and it's because he's freaking Krillin. He's just a regular human being. He's not even like Tien with the freaking third eye. Like, look at the only other human that hangs around with the DBZ crew is Yamcha. Look at how quickly he ducks out. I mean, we're not even talking about Yajirobe, because he wasn't even really a thing in DBZ, but, like, freaking Yamcha and Chaozu, like, were the only other human characters in, like, the show, and they both pieced out, like, right after the Saiyan saga. They're like, yeah, no, sorry, can't hang with you guys. Krillin's like, yeah, whatever, I'll just go. So, Addy Red's question would be, why do you think there are not many that think the same way as me, and great characters from cartoons/animation movies are in the shadow of other bigger characters that people like more? For example, Batman, Robin, Krillin, Goku, Rock Lee, Naruto, even though they can't really associate with them because most of the time they're superhuman. Well, that's it. It's because they are superhuman. I don't remember where. I read an article a while ago about how basically we as modern day people tend to idolize comic book and anime and TV show characters the same way that, like, the ancient Greeks idolized the gods, like, and in some ways this especially a younger generation, the same way that people idolize regular deities, like Jesus and Allah and whatever, like, people that are non-religious will end up treating some fictional characters almost like religious figures. And so in that sense, it makes sense to idolize the most powerful, the most ridiculous, the most off-the-wall characters. And I think that's why people do it, because people realize they're not ever actually going to be, super powered like Superman or Goku or, even Batman, I mean, but he's still theoretically human with super powered plot armor. So I think that's it. They don't want somebody relatable when they idolize somebody. They want somebody mythological. They want somebody that's like... It's why people get so tweaked over the Goku versus Superman debate, which Goku would totally lose in a fight to Superman, by the way. Superman would smack Goku around like... Anyway. So that's why. I think it's because people want that, that lofty goal that they're never going to reach way up there, that they, they're not going to get to, and that's why they like it so much, because they know they won't get there. But I think in the context of Be a Game Character, the blog, and this YouTube channel, I think going for more humanized characters is better, just because you want something that's relatively attainable, because you don't want to be constantly feeling like you are not ever going to reach your goal. If you set a goal that's literally impossible for you to reach, you're not going to feel great because you're never going to get there. There's a very small percentage of people that might enjoy that, but most people, when you set a goal, you want something you can get to. So that's why I think. So thank you, Addie Red, new question asker on Q&A Tuesday. I love it. I hope we see you again next week, and I really appreciate you stopping in and chatting with us. Next up is Your Name. Your Name says, Yo, Dan, personally, I like how we're cutting out of the cookie cutter superhero. Yes. This is a response to the Marvel Comics question. I'm getting bored of the same 4 heroes getting remade and changing nothing, so I like how Marvel is choosing to expand and cash in on the hundreds of gold mines they have in comics. Speaking of which, I just watched the Luke Cage trailer for the Netflix show that's coming up in September, and I shared it on the blog, Facebook page if you want to go watch it too. It looks sick. I am so excited. I love Luke Cage. So, yeah. Absolutely, I agree. My question for you is, how do you love yourself while also wanting to improve upon yourself? I personally struggle with this because I always want to be better and do better, and I'm not satisfied with where I am. So actually being content with where I am and happy with myself is tough. I'd like to know what you think. Very good. Very good question. It is... How can I phrase this the way that I do it? All right, so I'm going to put this in a cooking context, okay? So I like to cook. I'm, in my opinion, pretty good at cooking. Usually the stuff that I make tastes pretty good. Someday I might even put out a cookbook for the blog. We'll see. So when I cook, one of the things that I like to cook most is steak. I love making a good homemade steak, either on the grill or, in the oven or whatever, however I'm choosing to make the steak. So I make that steak and it tastes really good. But so, for instance, last time I made a steak, it tasted really good. My wife and I loved the steak. It was really good. But it was a little salty. It was a little overly salty. It needed to be cut down a bit. I used too much salt in my marinade. And I'm like, all right, so this steak was good. I enjoyed eating this steak, but I know that I can cook it better next time. That's kind of how I see my own body, and you do need to hit a point of minimal satisfaction. Like, you need to hit a goal of, that's very attainable, going back to attainable goals again. You need to hit some sort of goal that's very attainable in a relatively short amount of time to kind of give you that initial boost of, yeah, I did good. I did awesome. You need to hit something that you can do in a relatively short period of time. And that goal is entirely dependent upon you. But my advice would be make sure you can hit that goal in no less than 2 months or so. So obviously you're not losing 40 pounds in 2 months. You want to set something that you can do in 2 months. Like I want to be able to, I want to be able to run for half an hour without having to stop and breathe. And that's something you can generally do in about 2 months. You want to set something like, I want to be able to do 10 consecutive push-ups. Something really attainable to start out, because you want that to be your benchmark for, yes, here is something where if I hit it, I will be at least a little bit satisfied. Because again, going back to attainable goals, if you're constantly reaching for something that's way out there and you can't get it, you're going to be unhappy with yourself the whole time. So, me personally, when I am working out and, Obviously, I do that a lot, but not as much as I'd like to because I'm very, very busy working on things for the blog and for Ultramind and stuff like that right now. So when I am working on myself, I take pleasure in things like, okay, I deadlifted a lot of weight today. I wish I could deadlift more, but I'm still lifting more than, the average person that you grab off the street and have them lifted. So I can feel better in knowing that I am stronger than most of the people I will come in contact with every day, and I take some pride in that. So you need to have, it's a two-tiered thing. You need to be okay with who you are. And that should be independent even of how you physically feel. Like being okay with who you are should have nothing to do with what you see in the mirror. It should have nothing to do with the numbers that you put up when you're lifting or when you're running or when you're doing any kind of sport or whatever. Being happy with yourself should not be connected with you physically. Like you should be able to be happy with yourself just because you are a person. You're alive. You're hanging out here on this planet with us, which is super cool. And you're like, hey, I woke up today. That's awesome. Like, seriously, that should be your prime mode. But at the same time, you should have that thirst, that drive for improving yourself. And if you want a reference point, you should realize that Michael Phelps, this is relevant, Olympics, but Michael Phelps, okay, one of the most stunning Olympians of all time. Michael Phelps can still improve himself in some way. Maybe not even in swimming. Maybe he's peaked in swimming. I think if anybody has peaked in swimming, Michael Phelps has peaked. But maybe he can improve himself in some other way physically. Maybe he can learn a new skill. Maybe he could take up, maybe when he retires from the Olympics, he could take up martial arts. Like, that'd be crazy. But so you need to have that satisfaction with who you are as a person, and it should not necessarily be connected with where you want to be. In fact, you should be happy that you as a person, as a human being, have that capability to change yourself, to be able to go, I am like the only animal on earth that can look at itself and say, I'd like to be better at this, and then I could go do that. Like, that's not a common thing in the known universe. We don't really know of anything else that does that. So you should be happy with yourself regardless of how much you can lift, what you look like, how you weigh, blah, 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 blah. And that's something that is beyond the scope of just workout advice. That's something psychological. That's something you need to wake up and be okay with yourself. But you should always still have that little bit of hunger to, hey, I want to get stronger. I want to get faster. I want to be able to run a 5K, 10K. I want to be able to run a marathon. I want to be able to climb rock walls. I want to be able to do that. And they should be honestly separate from each other. So I don't know if that helps. I hope it helps. That's my mindset and where I'm at. If I woke up tomorrow and I weighed 250 pounds, I'd still like myself as a person. I would absolutely be working towards losing that weight. By the way, at this point, I'm 195. So, but I would actually absolutely be working to get back down from 250 pounds because that's way too big for me. But I'd still like myself as a person. I just recognize that I want to change some things. An unrelated question for you is, what do you think of those giant builders like Bradley Martin, Kali Muscle, etc., helping people get into fitness or discouraging people? Thanks, Dan. Have an amazing week. All right, so that's actually not an unrelated question because you know what? On one hand, I like their stuff. I got a kick out of Kali Muscle in particular. I like watching this stuff. But let's talk about unrealistic expectations again, okay? They're mythological creatures, things that, are beyond the ken of normal human beings. Now, first let me tell you something, okay? They're all on steroids. And I'm not saying that to bash them, and I'm not saying that to be mean to them, and I'm not saying that to ridicule them. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking steroids. If you're not competing in some sort of sport event where you're gaining an unfair edge over other competitors, and oh, by the way, you would not believe the level of steroid use and abuse in basically every professional sport out there. If you think an athlete is not taking steroids just because they're not huge, you're wrong. There's tons of different types of gear out there. But this is the thing. All those huge bodybuilders that you see on YouTube, all the big beefy ones, 99% of them are on gear. They're using gear. Gear is the general overarching term in the fitness world for steroids slash performance enhancer slash whatever. It could be steroids. It could be anabolics. Could be human growth hormone. Could be just testosterone replacement therapy. Whatever. There's lots of different stuff out there that'll give you an edge in growing muscle and being stronger and more fit. But so my main issue with them is that a lot of them, some of them are open about it, a lot of them are not open about it. And I think that that's harmful because it places unrealistic expectations on people that start working out without ever having the intention of using steroids. Like most normal, everyday people, at least when they're starting out and exercising, have literally zero interest in using steroids. And I think part of that is because of the stigma that's on steroids from, left over from the 80s and 90s when it was a very risky or iffy thing to use steroids. But I feel like as a culture, we're starting to become a little more accepting of gear and steroids. So I think that, we'll probably see a rise in their use as long as we understand the safety issues and stuff like that. But I think that people that go into it, and you can see if you go to any of their videos and you scroll down, you'll see somebody say, that dude's on steroids. And then like 5 or 6 fans out of nowhere can be like, no, you're not. You're not on steroids. You're just some tiny little guy. You don't know what it's like to lift weights. Like, listen, I'm not some tiny little guy. I'm not some huge guy, but I'm not some tiny little guy, okay? I can deadlift twice my body weight, all right? I am not outrageously strong, nor do I lift a huge amount of weights by any comparison, but I have been in the fitness world and I know enough people to know what is possible with steroids and what is not possible with steroids, barring some very extreme genetic outliers. So, yes, most of them are on steroids. I think it creates an unrealistic expectation for people that don't know they're on steroids and don't expect they have to go on steroids. And whatever. So beyond that, I think they're fine. They're very entertaining. Most of the YouTube weightlifting and bodybuilding personalities are very entertaining. I think their stuff is cool. I like watching it. But you need to go in knowing that those dudes are on all kinds of gear and that if you actually want to look like them and be as big as they are, you're also going to have to go on all kinds of gear. And that's not necessarily bad as long as you do it safely and you know what you're doing and you've got a professional involved. But just know going in that requires alternative chemicals. And on the flip side of that, don't just assume just because somebody has showing muscle that they are on steroids. Like, I am 100% natural. I would tell you if I'm not 100% natural, I'm going to be doing a follow-up on my cut in probably, I would say probably a month. I got about a month left in my cut. I stalled out over the summer for a whole lot of personal reasons. But so I'll be posting photos on the blog. I might even do a video here of, relatively realistic expectations. And I'm not that big. I could be bigger than I am naturally, definitely. But just to kind of give you an idea of, yes, you can be muscular without steroids. But if you want to get to like Cali muscle size, you're going to need some steroids, bro. So that's my only thought on that is I don't want unrealistic expectations for people who are trying to get into fitness, which is why if I were to ever do steroids, and I'm not on steroids, but know that I'm not, and know that if I ever were to try any kind of gear or something like that, I would tell you all about it. And I would educate you because that's what I do, all right? And, when I'm not planning on going on steroids or any kind of gear now, but if I, hit 55 and I'm still working out and lifting heavy, like, it gets to a point where your body stops making testosterone, like, at least compared to what it used to. Like, I think testosterone replacement therapy is fantastic for guys over 50. Like, it's like, you kidding me? We can live better through chemistry. Let's do it. Like, we know a lot more about that kind of stuff than we used to. So if I were to do it, I would tell you about it. And because of that, I'm telling you right now that I'm not on steroids. And so we can get kind of an idea of natural versus chemically enhanced. So that's my only thoughts on those guys. Other than that, I think they're great. I love their entertaining personalities. I love watching their shows. I think they're very funny. We got some people on Facebook Live, but looks like we got no questions down there. We're just about done with today's questions from the YouTube channel, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So, my question for you for next week. I'm really scruffy. I'm just realizing that. Look at that. Look at that. I'm a fuzzy. My question for you next week is, how am I going to phrase this? What do you not understand about the basics of nutrition in regards to, macronutrients, protein, carbs, fat, micronutrients, gaining weight, losing weight, anything you'd like to know about eating properly, or what you might be doing wrong or something like that, because I feel like that's a big mystery in the world at large. There's a whole bunch of misinformation out there. So I want to try and clear some of that up. So for next week, ask me any questions you've got in general about nutritional stuff. Whatever, anything under the sun regards to food, nutritional intake, challenges you've had with gaining weight or losing weight, whatever, and I will try and help as best I can. So go ahead, ask me answer that question in the comments below, and then ask me one for next week, and I will answer it. All right, and that goes for the YouTube channel or the Facebook page, and we'll be live again next week. So around the same time, and yeah. So that's it. As always, remember to live boldly, change the world, and continue to be awesome. Bye bye.